I never thought I'd be the kind of person who'd look forward to having electrical problems. But there I was, 3 weeks after Jax finished the rewiring job in my apartment, seriously considering unplugging something important just to have a reason to call him back. It started on a Tuesday morning when half my apartment went dark. I was in the middle of a work call, my laptop dying, and I just realized my phone charger was plugged into one of the dead outlets. Classic. My landlord gave me Jax's number, said he was reliable, affordable, and could probably come by that afternoon. I wasn't expecting much, honestly. In my experience, contractors show up late, do half the job, and disappear for weeks before finishing. Jax knocked on my door at exactly 2 o'clock. I opened it, and there he was, tool belt slung low on his hips, work boots scuffed and worn, and this slightly apologetic smile like he was sorry for interrupting my day. He had dark curly hair that looked like he'd just run his hands through it, and these warm brown eyes that crinkled at the corners when he introduced himself. His handshake was firm, calloused, real. "So you're having some power issues?" he asked, already scanning the apartment like he was mentally mapping the electrical system. I showed him the dead outlets, explained about the circuit breaker, tried not to sound like a complete idiot about electrical things. He listened carefully, nodding, asking questions that actually made sense. Then he opened up my breaker box and let out this low whistle. "When was this building constructed? The 70s? He glanced back at me, and I caught something in his expression, concern mixed with the kind of focus I found weirdly attractive. "Your wiring is pretty outdated. I can patch this specific issue today, but honestly, you're looking at a bigger job if you want it done right. This whole panel should be replaced, and I'm guessing a lot of the wiring behind these walls is original." My heart sank. How big are we talking? 3 days, probably. Maybe more if we find other issues once I get into the walls. He stood up, wiping his hands on his jeans. "I can give you a quote, break down exactly what needs doing. But the short version is, this isn't just about your outlets not working. It's about safety. Old wiring like this, it's a fire hazard." The way he said it, straightforward but not trying to scare me, made me trust him immediately. We talked through the quote, and yeah, it was going to cost me, but he explained every line item, showed me photos on his phone of similar jobs he'd done. There was something almost tender about how he handled it, like he genuinely cared that I understood what I was paying for. He started work the next morning at 8. I'd cleaned up the living room, moved furniture away from the walls, and made coffee. When he arrived, he seemed surprised by the coffee, like he wasn't used to clients offering. "You didn't have to do that," he said, but he accepted the mug with both hands, and the smile he gave me made my stomach flip in a way I hadn't felt in months. That first day, I tried to work from my bedroom while he tore into the walls of my living room, but I kept finding excuses to walk past, to check on his progress, to ask if he needed anything. He'd look up from whatever he was doing, wipe sweat from his forehead, and we'd end up talking. Small stuff at first. Where he learned electrical work. His dad taught him, turns out. How long I'd lived in the apartment. 2 years, still felt temporary somehow. What I did for work. Marketing, fully remote. Kind of isolating if I was honest. "Must be nice though," he said, carefully threading new wire through a hole he'd drilled. "Working from home. No commute. No office politics." "It's lonely sometimes," I admitted, surprising myself with the honesty. "I can go days without actually talking to someone face to face." He paused, looked at me directly. "That sounds hard." Something about the way he said it, no judgment, just acknowledgement, made me feel seen in a way I hadn't expected. I found myself lingering in the doorway watching him work. His hands moved with this confident precision, and he'd explain what he was doing without me even asking, like he wanted to share his knowledge. There was something deeply attractive about competence, I was realizing, about someone who knew exactly what they were doing and did it well. By the end of day 1, my living room looked like a disaster zone, but Jax had mapped out all the problem areas, shown me the old wiring he'd pulled out, explained the plan for the next 2 days. As he packed up his tools, I offered him a beer. He hesitated, just for a second, then nodded. We sat on my balcony, both of us tired, and talked for an hour. He told me about growing up in a small town upstate, about coming to the city 5 years ago to start his own business. I told him about my family across the country, about feeling disconnected from them, about trying to figure out who I was in this city where everyone seemed to have their shit together except me. "You seem like you've got it pretty together to me," he said quietly, and when I laughed, he shook his head. "I'm serious. You're honest. That's rare." When he left that night, I stood at my door longer than necessary, watching him walk down the hallway. Something had shifted, though I couldn't name it yet. Day 2, he showed up with pastries from the bakery down the street. "Figured you might not have had time for breakfast with all the noise I'm about to make," he said, handing me the bag. Such a small gesture, but it felt enormous. We ate together at my kitchen counter, and he asked about the photos on my fridge, my friends, my sister's kids, a hiking trip I'd taken last year. "You look happy in this one," he said, pointing to a photo of me on a mountain summit, windblown and grinning. I should do more things like that. I get stuck in routines." "Yeah," he said softly. "Me too." The work that day was intensive. He was running new circuits, installing updated outlets, and the apartment was a maze of tools and wire and dust. I gave up on trying to work and instead found myself helping him, holding the flashlight while he worked in tight spaces, handing him tools, learning the names of things I'd never thought about before. Wire nuts, junction boxes, GFCI outlets. Our hands touched when I handed him a screwdriver, and the contact lasted a fraction too long. He looked at me, and I looked back, and neither of us said anything, but the air felt different. Charged, if you'll forgive the terrible electrical pun. "You're good at this," he said eventually, going back to his work. "Helping, I mean. Most clients just want me in and out as fast as possible." "I like learning how things work," I said. "And honestly, the company is nice." He glanced up again, and this time his smile was different, warmer, more personal. "Yeah, it is." We ordered pizza for lunch, ate it sitting on my dust-covered floor, and he told me about the worst electrical jobs he'd ever done. A house where the previous owner had done their own wiring with complete disregard for codes or safety. An office building where he'd found a rat's nest inside a breaker box. I was laughing so hard I nearly choked on my pizza, and he was laughing too, and it felt easy in a way I'd almost forgotten things could feel. That evening, as he was packing up, I asked if he wanted to stay for dinner. "I mean, I'm ordering in again because my kitchen's kind of a disaster, but you're welcome to hang out if you want." The pause before he answered felt like an eternity. Then he smiled. "I'd like that." We got Thai food and sat on my balcony again, and the conversation went deeper. He told me about a relationship that had ended badly, about realizing he needed to be alone for a while to figure himself out. I told him about my own failed relationships, about the pattern I'd noticed of choosing people who kept me at arm's length, about wondering if I was capable of letting someone really know me. "You're doing it right now," he said, "letting me know you. That's different. You're working on my apartment. There's a built-in endpoint. It feels safer." He was quiet for a moment, turning his beer bottle in his hands. "What if there wasn't an endpoint?" My heart started racing. "What do you mean?" "I don't know. This has been really nice. Talking to you, being here. I don't want it to end when the job's done." I didn't know what to say. The vulnerability in his voice mirrored everything I was feeling, and it terrified me. "Jax, I don't even know if you're—" "I am," he said quietly. "If you're asking what I think you're asking, I'm gay. I'm also really bad at reading signals. So if I'm completely misunderstanding the situation, please tell me now before I embarrass myself further." I laughed, breathless with relief and nervousness. "You're not misunderstanding." We stayed up until midnight talking, and when he finally left, he squeezed my shoulder, let his hand linger, and said he'd see me in the morning. Day 3, the air between us was different, aware. Every glance felt weighted with possibility. He finished most of the major work that day, the apartment slowly transforming back into a livable space. I helped him patch the holes in the walls, and he taught me how to do it properly, standing close behind me, guiding my hands, his breath warm on my neck. "You're a natural," he murmured, and I could hear the smile in his voice. When I turned around, we were inches apart. Neither of us moved. The moment stretched, taut and fragile, until finally he stepped back, cleared his throat, and said he should probably finish up the panel. That night, I didn't ask if he wanted to stay. He just did. We didn't even discuss it. He packed up his tools, washed his hands, and we ordered dinner like it was the most natural thing in the world. After we ate, we ended up on my couch, closer than we'd sat before, and we watched a movie neither of us paid attention to. His arm was along the back of the couch, not quite touching me, but close enough that I could feel the warmth of him. Halfway through the movie, I leaned into him, just slightly, testing. He responded by wrapping his arm around my shoulders, pulling me closer, and I felt something in my chest unclench. We stayed like that until the movie ended, and then we stayed longer, neither of us wanting to be the first to move. "I should probably go," he said eventually, but he didn't move. "You could stay," I said. "I mean, if you want, no pressure." He pulled back just enough to look at me, his eyes searching mine. "Are you sure?" I nodded. I'd never been more sure of anything. He kissed me then, soft and careful, like I was something precious. His hand cupped my face, thumb brushing my cheekbone, and I melted into him, into this moment I hadn't known I'd been waiting for. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against mine. "I've wanted to do that since day one," he whispered. "Me too." We moved to my bedroom, and everything that happened next was tender and unhurried and perfect in its imperfection. Afterward, lying in the dark with his arm around me, I felt more myself than I had in years. The job was supposed to be done after 3 days, but Jax came back the next morning, and the next, and the next. He found small things to fix, improvements to make, reasons to stay, installing dimmer switches, adding outlets in more convenient locations, upgrading my light fixtures. We both knew what was happening, this extension of time, this reluctance to let the excuse end. On day 8, he showed up without his tool belt. Just himself, a bag of groceries, and a nervous smile. "I thought maybe I could cook you dinner," he said. "If you're not sick of me yet." I pulled him inside, kissed him right there in the doorway. "I'm not sick of you." He made pasta from scratch, and I watched him work in my kitchen with the same confidence he brought to electrical work, and I realized I was falling for him. Not just the attraction, though that was definitely there, but something deeper. The way he listened when I talked, the way he made me feel safe enough to be vulnerable, the way he saw me, really saw me, and didn't look away. Over dinner, I asked him what happened next. "I mean, the apartment's done. You can't keep finding excuses to come back." He reached across the table, laced his fingers through mine. "I don't need excuses. I'll come back because I want to see you, because these past 8 days have been some of the best I've had in a long time, because I think we could be really good together if we gave it a chance." "I think so too," I said. "I'm scared though. I'm not good at this, at letting people in." "You've let me in already," he said gently, "and I'm scared too, but I think you're worth being scared for." That was 3 months ago. Jax never did finish finding things to fix in my apartment, but he's here most nights anyway. His toothbrush in my bathroom, his work clothes mixed in with mine in the laundry. We're taking it slow, learning each other, building something real and solid. Sometimes I think about that Tuesday when my power went out, how annoyed I was, how I had no idea my life was about to change. The electrician said the job would take 3 days. He came back for 5 more, and then he just kept coming back, and I kept letting him in. And somewhere in the mess of exposed wiring and patched drywall, I found something I didn't know I was looking for. Love, it turns out, isn't always a lightning strike. Sometimes it's a steady current, building slowly, connecting circuits you didn't know were there, illuminating spaces that had been dark for too long. Sometimes it's a man with kind eyes and capable hands who sees you at your most ordinary and decides to stay anyway. Sometimes the thing you need has been trying to reach you all along. You just needed the right person to flip the switch. Total char count, 16,847.